Okay.
All right. I guess first off, we'll get things started by introducing our guest for the day. This is Zach Lipovsky. I'm sure you guys all recognize Zach from the Fox television series On the Lot. Thanks for coming out.
No problem.
I guess one of the first things we wanted to know was what sort of stuff were you into before On the Lot? What sort of education did you have in terms of film or just in general? And I guess what sort of work you've been doing up until On the Lot happened?
Sure. I started off when I was a kid. I was an actor as a kid.
Okay.
So I was in film and TV kind of from the age of 5 on, and kind of grew up on film sets and kind of grew up with film all around me.
Right.
And at the same time, when I was really young, computers started happening.
Right.
So I was a pretty big computer nerd at the same time, and was lucky enough to afford them because I was making, I was acting in TV and film, so I could afford a few toys.
A working child, right?
Yeah. So I had some cameras, and I had mainly just computers, and then eventually digital cameras kind of came to their own.
Right.
But we started off with digital still cameras that were about this big that took floppy disks.
Oh wow.
Doing animations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Then eventually they could handle video, and then eventually started making my own movies. And by the time I graduated high school, kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. And because I had had enough experience on set and learning by mistake on my own, I didn't really feel like I needed to go to school because I kind of knew most of it anyway.
Right.
And so then I kind of figured out the rest.
Awesome.
I don't know, I just kind of made movies, and you screw up on that and you fix it next time, and meet people. Every time you make a movie, you meet another person, and to make money, my main kind of thing was doing special effects and visual effects.
Okay.
Kind of freelancing, doing graphics and anything I could find.
Right. So that was just sort of like a means to an end. Like you've always wanted to know, or
I've always wanted to direct, but it's been visual effects was a great way of kind of breaking. Vancouver has such an amazing independent film community.
Right.
And there's kind of this gap between, because the digital technology has gotten so good, people kind of expect your film to have visual effects now.
Right.
But if you can make it look so good for barely any money at all, but to do visual effects, if you want to go to a big house, costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, because they have fancy secretaries and offices and lots of expensive furniture, and they have to, they cost a lot because they have all this overhead. So I kind of was filling the gap of I just did it out in my bedroom, but could do the stuff that looked just as good. So kind of met a lot of indie people out.
What are some of the shows that you acted in when you were a kid?
Lots of good Canadian YTV stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Did some Goosebumps. Did some.
Nice.
Oh really?
Some Shirley Holmes. Did some.
Really? That's awesome.
All the good old hits.
Right.
Now you said you started when you were 5. Now was that something that your parents put you into, or something you just?
It started off as initially my mom's a kind of educational producer at a kind of freelance out of a local network here, and she started off. Most of their stuff's kind of government run, so they had absolutely no money at all.
Right.
And so she was like, "Oh, we need a kid," and so she said, "Oh, we'll just use my son and put me in." And then I was kind of like, "Oh, I kind of like this," and so then we went and found an agent, and it just kind of went from there.
Right. So you had no formal film education. It was just you just kind of picked it up on your own.
Yeah, well, you just learn under people that know what they're doing. I mean, it was cool. Even when I'm on set now, supervising, sometimes you're waiting around to this visual effects supervisor shot, and they keep pushing it and keep pushing it because usually they don't have any actors in them, and blah, 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 blah. I like to just stand in for the actors because you get to stand right in the middle.
You can see everything
that's going on, right? So you have this amazing VP in the gap, and you're seeing where they're putting all the lights, and you can see everything is accessible to you, be able to see it there.
Right.
You just stand and watch what's going on and learn a lot. You hear what they're all calling everything, they put up something and then they take it down if it doesn't work.
Right.
You get to watch how everything's being done.
Cool. That's awesome. So then, on that note, how important to you, in your opinion, how necessary is film school to someone who wants to be a filmmaker?
I know I read that Robert Rodriguez book, and he was saying film school's a waste of money. Just take that 30 grand, go and make your first film. What's your take on film school?
I guess I'm of that vein as well, but only if the thing is, film is all about the people that you make it with, and it's all about the crew of people that you don't necessarily all have to have defined roles, but you know, there's a bunch of us and we all want to make movies, and I help you when you want to make your movie, you help me when I want to make my movie, and you need that group of people, the support group.
Right.
So if you're coming from the middle of nowhere and you arrive in a big city and you know absolutely nobody,
Like Edmonton.
it's going to be pretty hard to suddenly just make movies with 30 grand, right? Because you don't know anybody, you don't have access to any equipment, you don't know where to get stuff cheap, you don't know anything, right?
Exactly.
And you might not even have any skills about filmmaking.
Right.
So then it might be worth to pay the money to at least, because then when you graduate with a circle of people that you can go on to. Now some schools are more expensive than others, and some schools you learn more than others, and some teach stuff in certain ways. The way I did it was basically the way that I learned best, was just trial by fire. And I find that way, you know, you spend your money, but as you're spending it, you're moving up in the industry. Whereas a lot of people get out of film school and they're still at ground zero because they don't. No one really. It's not like you're a doctor and you need your diploma to get.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's just based on your
I'm
work.
glad the doctors are like that.
So then, how tough is it then, in your opinion, to succeed in the filmmaking industry?
It's tough, only because of that fact that at the beginning you pretty much have to work for free. And you pretty much need to either have someone who's going to support you or a job that you're doing, and hopefully that job is involved with film. I've seen people try and do the kind of day job at, you know, Blockbuster or at the grocery store or whatever to try and, but it's hard because it kind of slowly cuts into you, and eventually you're just paying your bills, and it's hard to get your film off the ground. I find people do better when at least they have a job that's in film, even if it's someone, you know, assisting an editor or capturing tape or being a PA. At least you're kind of in you're meeting people, and you're, even though you're just supporting your habit of making films, you're at least still meeting people and learning stuff. So it's tough, because it's tough to break in if you don't have that, either the ability to have a job that pays enough but doesn't take all your time, or have someone, you know, I started off pretty early, so I was able to rely on my parents.
That's great.
So is that kind of the main reason you do special effects? Is it sort of a way of supporting your habit?
It was great, because it was, the cool thing about visual effects is you work very closely with the director of photography and the director. So I was meeting all the directors and all the directors of photography in the city. So whenever I wanted to, you know, learn something or ask something or know who they're working with, or you know, you get to meet their whole network of people, and then you meet his whole network of people, and then you know, they love you so much because you're giving them all these amazing things for free, because I was just volunteering because I was living at home. You know, next time I need something, they're
more than happy,
ready and willing to help me out, which has been the way that I've had my success has been only through the generosity of other people.
Great. So then, obviously, then, if what the advice that you would give someone who's aspiring to be in the film industry is like, it's about the networking, and it's about, you know, surrounding yourself.
Well, networking, I don't know. Networking is so awful. I hate networking, and so I have
like actively like schmoozing.
Yeah, that I hate. My best friend, who's also my manager and producer, he loves that. So he does that. I just hold the cocktail next to him. And
that's kind of our dynamic.
But what I think is more important for me anyway, as a director, is that group of people, not necessarily the networking of that, but just working with people and helping people, and just being the hardest thing is just going out there and doing it, which is why 48-hour film festivals and 24-hour film festivals and all those kind of things are awesome, because they force you to have a finished product
in a short period of time.
In a few hours. And there's nothing you can do about it. You have to create something, whether it sucks or not. You have to have something to show at the end.
Kind of like on the lot.
Exactly like on the lot. And at the end you're like, oh yeah, okay, I still am a filmmaker. Good, I've created something. See, this is what I did. Because you could spend years just tweaking this and tweaking that, and I mean,
the screenplay's not quite right, and
you know, and you go, oh well, I don't want to shoot this because it's, you know, it's fall. It's not going to work, so I'm going to wait till next year. And eventually you kind of forget what it's like to even create something. And they're great at. That's why I love them, because they're just a great exercise, at least to kind of make sure you're still alive and still making moves.
Yeah, exactly. So you were mentioning you had like a manager or producer. Like maybe touch on what your team is like.
Sure. Well, the funny thing was making films all through school and all through high school. A lot of my buddies that have all kind of found their own roles in film. So my best friends become a producer, and it's great to have someone who loves producing. It's very hard to find a producer who wants to be a producer.
Right. A producer wants to be a director.